Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Forge, ArtificerDM's podcast. Once again, name still TBD. This is a podcast where we bring you guys items, monsters, gods, backstories, and more. I'm Mike. I'm your community manager, and I'm also joined by... Who wants to take the reins first?
I am Artificer Falcon, or Brandon, as some may call me, but lead dev of Artificer, and super excited to be here again.
Artificer Joe, founder and lead designer of ArtificerDM. Also extremely excited to be sharing some more ideas.
Hell yeah. There's nothing better than sitting together next to a campfire, or in our case, a forge, and crafting up some wonderful ideas for you guys, both players and DMs, to utilize in your own games. Last time, we brought you guys some custom D&D items, as well as some PC backstories that you can use for inspiration or utilize in your own games. And, well, magic items are really hard to ignore. Because, let's be honest, if you're in a party, you like loot. You gotta have it. And there's nothing better than finding something brand new in your game. So we're going to open off for another round of item craft. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first today. Go ahead, Joe.
For it. Go for it, Brandon. I'm sure.
All right, I'll go for it today. So I have a bit of an kind of a different one. It's I have a potion today that I'd mix it up a little bit, kind of go a little different. I think this could be interesting in the hands of a DM. So today I have the Elixir of Shared Fates. So it is a vial of swirling luminescent liquid that shimmers between multiple colors, kind of a prism of reflecting light. And the effect, or where this could be really interesting, is when two or more individuals drink the potion simultaneously, they forge a temporary bond lasting 1 hour. Now, this kind of unravels a bunch of effects that I have kind of created that I think could be used in some really interesting scenarios as deemed by the DM. So I'll just start kind of listing these out. Each participant gains the ability to sense emotions and intentions of the others, granting advantage on insight and persuasion checks made against the other participant. All participants pool their hit points together during the duration. Damage taken by one is directly taken from the pool of HP. The HP pool hits 0, all are knocked unconscious. When a participant takes healing, the healing applies to the cumulative health pool instead of the individual. Participants receive a +2 bonus on any ability checks if they are working together on a task such as a puzzle or a trap, investigation, things along that line. And a gentle glow surrounds each drinker, allowing them to see in the darkness as if they were in dim light. And this all lasts for 1 hour. And the kind of idea I had with this is there's a couple instances that I think this could be really interesting. One thought I had was essentially this would be a forced partaking by the DM in some, maybe a dungeon or a ruin or some kind of trial. And I think this could be really interesting for a party that maybe doesn't get along, kind of as a forced magical team building exercise type deal. Nice. I think would be really, really interesting on that. Yeah. Especially with the shared HP, because one player, maybe you have a player that whose character is really cocky, is always running into the face of danger. Well, other players might get might need to have some more cooperation there. If when they take damage, everyone takes damage, right? So I think this could be really cool in the effect of being presented in a dungeon to where, you have to partake in this or there is no moving forward here, in some sort of puzzle designed by the DM. The other instance on the flip side of that I see could be really interesting for this is this be either a reward from a quest or you actually find this potion somewhere, and it could be used by the player strategically in some sort of interesting combat scenario. One example of this that I immediately thought of is if this was shared by somebody playing a wizard and a barbarian, for instance. This allows some really interesting gameplay mechanics in certain combat situations by the wizard, because now as a wizard you have the health of a barbarian. Essentially, you are no longer just a glass cannon for the duration here. So I think it could lead to some pretty interesting combat design scenario design by a DM here. But yeah, I think could do quite a few different things with this potion. So I think it's fun.
This was called the Elixir of Shared Fate, right?
Yes.
Interesting. We'll break down and we'll sort of discuss all our thoughts at the end of this. But Joe, what do you bring to the table? What are you dropping at my magical shop today?
I am bringing you a wondrous and very rare item, the Chronoframe Conductor. It is a gauntlet that on it has many miniature gears and pistons, and it always has some very slight whirring to it as everything shifts, almost like the intricacies of a watch, but across all of it. It's surprisingly lightweight when you put it on. It does require attunement. Even though it looks very complex, there's a bit of mist. You can tell, it has some form of magical essence behind it. And engraved on it, it has time is not a river flowing in one direction, but an ocean of possibilities waiting to be navigated by those with the proper instruments. So I love my complex items. And this is all based off, probability. It's charge based, so it has 7 total charges and regains 1d4 plus 1 at dawn. So as a reaction, while you're wearing the gauntlet, when a creature you see within 60 feet makes an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can expend 1 charge to do a temporal adjustment. You'll then roll a d6 on a table, and depending on the result, the target either gains advantage, disadvantage, gets blessed or baned on the roll, or the roll just becomes a straight 10. So you basically are like, hey, I really need something really good, or you are hoping that you get something really bad. So it kind of has the flexibility, and it's not a direct advantage or disadvantage. And you get 7 charges of it. So, adds a little bit more chaos even on top of everything else. And then it also has, you can expend 2 of the charges to gain advantage on initiative rolls, and can't be surprised as you kind of get a look into the future a little bit. Now, anytime you do one of the temporal adjustments, you also roll a D100, which 75% of the time doesn't do anything. But this is where it gets really exciting. It's either going to be pretty bad for you or it's going to be pretty good. So there's a lot of chaos that this gets to bring to the table. If you roll a 76 to an 80 on a D100, you lose 10 feet of movement for 1 minute. And then if you try and manipulate any small objects, you basically can't do any like tinkering checks or anything. I imagine this working really well with an artificer, but it's mostly the 10 feet of movement lost. A 81 to 85, and all enemies within 10 feet, including yourself, take 2d10 force damage. An 86 to a 90, and you activate probability flux. For 1 hour, you have like 1 free success on any roll, attack or saving throw or ability check. However, the DM also gets one of those as well. So it's kind of a give or take there. So within 1 hour, you basically just get an automatic success. 91 to 95. This one's really interesting. You connect with an alternate timeline of yourself, and you gain proficiency bonus in 1 skill for 24 hours. As well as you then you pick up a random distinctive personality quirk from this alternative self. So there's a little bit of role play in there. 96 is a dimensional hiccup. You go into a pocket dimension for 1d4 rounds, which basically you're just out of combat for 1d4 rounds. You can watch everything. You can't get hit. But you're basically pull yourself out of combat. And on a 97,
Jesus,
for 1 minute. I know there's a lot going on here. We're almost at the end here. Any damage you would take is applied at the beginning of your next turn instead of that turn. So you kind of have like 1 turn invincibility. And then we'll go to 100. If you hit 100, you roll a 1d4 and you can either get a +2 permanently to your dexterity. You gain proficiency in dexterity saving throws, or you can cast Time Stop once without any components. And then the last one is you gain an additional reaction each round. Just that's it. You get an additional reaction, whether it's opportunity or to use the an opportunity attack or use the temporal adjustments. I love my complex items, guys, and I love chaos, and that's where this item really came from. Mike, what do you got?
Oh boy. Well, I bring you 2 broken items that become 1. They are very, very simple in comparison. It is simply called a Spindle and Arcane Wool. That is simply what it is, but it produces something very, very cool, especially for parties that are about level 5 or so. So let's work with them individually. There is a magical spindle. And by itself, so long as you have yarn or any other like crocheting material, you can spend an action to weave anything, but it's made out of the yarn. So if you wanted to say, I want to make a ladder, that's great. You can put a think of a bundle of wool or sort of fabric into the spindle, twirl it a bit, and it'll weave you a ladder. And it'll fall because it's only made out of fabric. It's not super useful. The arcane wool also is not very useful. It's just a little bit lighter than sort of a huge bundle would be. It does give a beautiful glow, and if you were to work on it, you can also call out, I want to work with blue wool today. Starts to emit a bit of a blue glow. The really cool thing is when you combine the two. They are meant for each other. If you were to put the arcane wool into the magic spindle, you could then roll a d4 minus 1, and that'll determine how many days you get use of a flying carpet, as it'll start to weave together a flying carpet for you. So it's 1d4 minus 1, so there's a max possibility of 3 days. And then you would have to roll a 1d6 plus 1 after the day usage is done. Like let's say you have 3 days of usage, you've done 3 days. At the end of 3 days, you then have 1d6 plus 1 recharging period. So it is great for DMs who are like, well, you're going to do some backtracking. I don't want you guys to have to go through that process over and over and over again. Or maybe you want to provide them with the opportunity to maybe not go through some random encounters. Random encounters are pretty weird. Sometimes you have to make up some weird stuff. This is great. But it also doesn't give them the excuse to go, I fly over all problems, because there's a possibility that they make use of the flying carpet for 1 day, and then they have to wait 7 days to use it again.
That's nice.
So that's kind of what I have. And again, nothing too special in terms of a name. It's sort of a nice little mobility utility feature here. Oh boy. So we have a spindle and wool, we have an elixir of shared fate, and we have the Chrono what conductor?
Chronoframe Conductor.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, I think I very much like the because I stay away from the very complicated magic items if you haven't noticed, but the elixir of shared fate is really, really interesting. It gives me a lot of like the cleric of unity kind of vibes where you can do like a shared bond and gain like a d4 checks. This is obviously doesn't give you that, but it gives you like bonuses to HP, shared HP, bonuses to checks. It'll be very devious if you're able to like, if a BBEG was able to feed this to a player member, because it lasts for an hour. I think you said.
Yeah. Yes,
imagine,
1 hour.
Like, you hit me, you hit your friend.
Yeah. That's pretty brutal. I think I love the concept just playing around. I mean, it gives the players a strategic side of having, my wizard is now going to have half the HP pool basically of my barbarian, which sounds great. And still you just target those as a DM until both of them are low.
I mean, low AC
My question is mechanically, you just go after the wizard and then you're basically just hitting the wizard's AC. But mechanically, what happens after? Does the pool split equally between the two after they're they're shared,
That's a
or
great question, and I think that would probably be the most fair way to do it, is probably just an even split. If 2 people drink it, it's just whatever's left divided by 2. If it caps out over somebody, it doesn't matter. Like, it'll roll over. So you definitely would have to do some math, I guess, at the very end of the effect to figure out where everybody lands at the very end, as everybody kind of just comes back into themselves, I think.
Would death saves be shared too?
That's a great question.
My thought is no, because once they go unconscious, typically effects are done at that point in any sort of sense of the word. So if the health pool gets depleted, however many characters are under the effects, they all go unconscious, and then that's kind of it. They're all down. They all have their own death saves. They come back to 1 HP. That they're on their own then.
The effect's gone. Yeah.
The effect's gone. Right. As soon as that health pool is gone, or an hour has passed, either one, the effect's done. So, but yeah, I think it could, like I said, I think it'd be really interesting on 2 fronts, either strategically, like you said, Joe, or, hey, there is a door here, and there is a pedestal with this vial on it with some sort of riddle about drinking it, and you have to figure out what 2 or more characters in the party have to drink this, and then what puzzles and trials they have to overcome past that door that only opens when this potion gets drank, to really put, teamwork and stuff to the test, which I think is fun.
I think would be really cool is that if you were a cleric and you drank this with the rogue, and the rogue's like, I'm gonna go, like, they had a tendency of sneaking off and getting themselves in trouble. It's like, fine, go scout ahead, but we're gonna drink this potion together for an hour, and then you're walking with the rest of the party. The rogue is, 100 feet out, and then you feel a bit of pain. You're like, heal myself to heal him, because I think that's the way you say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So once they all feel the pain, they all take the hit, and then the same thing with healing. One person healing, it affects the pool. So the pool is everybody's health. So it's a universal thing. So yeah, that's what inspires the teamwork. You can't just have somebody running off doing who knows what and gets hurt, because then it hurts everyone. So it really pushes players to work together from the DM perspective. And the original vision that I had with this was for maybe a party whose characters, not necessarily the players, but the characters that they're playing aren't really getting along very well for whatever reason. Maybe some drama happened with their backstory, something happened in the plot. Either way, force them to come together and work together to tackle something.
I love that. And I know who loves some of this stuff. It sounds like, Joe, you love making legendary items. Very much so.
Yeah. I love a good
Conductor is very... at first, when you were describing the first 2 abilities of sort of the gauntlet and sort of the reactionary ability, as well as expending 2 charges for initiative, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I like this. And now we have 7 other abilities. I'm like,
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 potential outcomes every time you use the abilities. So it's, you have a very, very slim chance of getting one of the really good ones. And a chance of completely removing yourself from combat for 4 turns. So I just went for pure chaos, but with the ability to be, also very, very impactful. Just I think the nice, I don't think with this item that it's too many, it would interact too much. Yeah, 7 charges could turn into 7 uses in one combat if it's really crazy. So 7 D100 rolls, during one combat. But I don't think it would get too much in the way. Now I as the DM, I think you're managing the table for the player. They're not always double checking it, but or you even keep it hidden. But I like the concept of it's not as simple as just applying an advantage to a roll. There's a chance that you can really mess something up for somebody, imposing disadvantage on them, or intentionally trying to mess somebody up. So, yeah.
I love D100s. I'm a huge fan of D100 rolls. I think they're super fun, and I think the crazy things that could happen, or as a DM that you could come up with in a roll table with a D100 is super fun. Because you just said on a 100, you have some crazy good effects that occur, but it's a 100. There's a good chance that never even happens in the campaign, in the whole campaign. Right.
Yeah.
So, but that chance, knowing as a DM, that small chance that happens, and when it does happen, it's such a huge moment for the table. It's just super fun.
Yeah.
Everyone saw the wild sorcerer and was like, oh, I can put my own spin too. Let's get let's get wild.
Wild magic is exactly what my head
wild magic. Yep, definitely. Pure
What
chaos. I love it. It just creates such big moments at the table, Brandon.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it. I love the. I really thought, Mike, originally that the way you were going to go is like when you combine the two, you get a certain number of charges to like actually make that item. So if you were like, oh, I want to make a ladder, and then you could expend a charge to like actually make a ladder, and it had to be some mundane object, but it's just like, oh, I want to craft 50 feet of rope, and you could expend a charge to do that. That's where I thought you were going with it, but I love the magic carpet utility. It's a really so cool, good. And it's just like just enough that it's useful, but they have to be smart about it. The players have to be smart about how they use it.
And it's funny because when you were talking just about, I think it was just the spindle, about just creating things, that you basically whatever you want essentially, but it's wool, so it's fabric, so making a ladder is just going to fall down. I guess maybe a rope ladder, maybe that's what you want. But the first thing I thought of was in Critical Role campaign, I think it was campaign 2, the magic paint. Mm-hmm. That you could paint and stuff anything you want, and that's where my head went, and I loved that item in their campaign. I absolutely loved it. I love those kinds of items because it puts the creativity in the hands of your player. Because we might just think as DMs, oh, it's just wool. What can they do with it? Don't underestimate your players. You never know what crazy things gonna come with, and you go, that makes sense. That works.
It's also less of a charge, and it's more of like material being used. So it has to be a point to be like, oh, I had 50 feet worth of wool. I'm going to go ahead and expend it to make a bed or like a sleeping bag. It's like, great.
Yeah.
Where are you going to find the next material? And it's like, oh, you're right.
Oh,
I just used up. I better go buy something.
And now, either next town visit, you have a shopping episode where they're going on buying out the wool of the entire town or village.
What's kind of cemented the item too is that it stays the color of the wool that you purchased. So if you were like, the only thing they had there was like bright yellow, it's like, great, you make a sword. It's bright yellow, and it's made out of wool.
I love that.
Thing.
Made of wool.
Love it.
And it's a little bit of a cutesy thing. And then the wool itself, by the magic, the arcane wool is just it just gives a glow, and you can change color at will, which is it's not very useful on its own. But when you combine the two, there is like a time feature for a flying carpet. I don't see a lot of flying carpets. I know we like to reference Critical Role, and I know they had one for a while, but beyond that, I don't think I've ever seen another TTRPG community or actual play that uses it.
I can't think of any. I can't personally think of any. No, I don't think it's like one of those things where you think it would be common, but it really doesn't seem to be common.
I think part of it is that it makes combat more complex. As soon as you add a flying item to the party, now you've got to consider, obviously, if there's a dragon and it's 60 feet in the air, you set yourself up as a DM for what the combat's going to look like to some extent. But as soon as your players have it, it's like, I'm going to go here, 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 and here. And you're like, oh, okay. All right. Now I've got to consider that. And I think it becomes difficult to manage, and that's probably why. So that's why, Mike, I think it's a perfect way to address it, of like, you get it for this long
for 2 days,
and it's not all the time. Yeah, all right. 3 days. Yeah.
Plus,
another thing,
I feel like it's a way. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say also, I would definitely add in stipulation that the carpet itself is vulnerable to fire. Though magical items, I don't believe you should be able to destroy them easily. It should be like, okay, you had 6 days left on this carpet. It got hit with fire, and now it's back to 0.
Yeah. I think that's super valid, because the other thing that, and kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying, Joe, with combat, is just in general, just skipping things that like, oh, I spent all night creating this crazy puzzle, and then they took out the flying carpet and just flew all over it, and it's just like, well, you just rip up the paper. Well, that's one way to do it, guys. You gotta, I think, keep those things in mind. I mean, players will get super creative in a good way when you present them with these kinds of items, which is great. But
Yeah. And where are we flying over? Well, within the worlds that we make here, there are plenty of places that you can find yourself, whether that is a dense forest, a jungle, a desert, maybe out in the ocean, or maybe numerous cities abound, which is why we have, and I'm making up a new category name for this as we had item craft. We now have our lore-heavy locations, as we have a couple of ideas and suggestions that you can add into your own game, and hopefully you can take this as inspiration. So we're going to name a city that we've made or a location, and get into maybe a little bit of a lore, maybe the way it looks, bit of description, and maybe some importance. And if you guys like it, you can definitely grab, tweak, and utilize. So who would like to jump in first?
I can get us started here.
go for it.
All right. So mine, actually, a starting point for one of my campaigns is called Luminous. It resides within an empire that I base a lot of the names off of, Roman and Latin, specifically pretty close to the root. So reason for the name Luminous, and a lot of the inspiration for this comes from one of my favorite places on Earth, Astoria, Oregon, right between Washington and Oregon. It's right on the Columbia River, and the fog rolls in the morning, and I love the idea of at night the fog rolls in Luminous, and then combine that with some other things from nature, and there's bioluminescent plants around, so you have this wonderful blue glow at night that kind of lights it up and gives it a magical feel, that perfect kind of like spooky coastal town that also, with the fog rolling in, but it has this beautiful light show almost every single night. But to start, it's a starting town. It's not a city. It's not massive. It's supported mostly, timber logging industry, all wood homes, not a huge population, pretty small town, but has its own little quirks. It's got some fishing, it's a coastal town, and but it still has that fantasy flair of there's an apothecary, but a lot of opportunity there. The way that I took it in terms of some of the lores is when my players showed up that everybody was having nightmares, which kind of fit in with the spooky nature when they arrive at night into the tavern. Luminous, very flexible for it to grow, but a very simple concept. My players really loved it, so I will hand it off to whoever wants to go next.
I'll take over for this one. I kind of skirting off the same idea of sort of a place surrounded by nature and maybe a little bit of bioluminescent, definitely sort of a different vibe. I would like to bring you to Merrygar. It is a village that is surrounded by a dense forest, and while you get closer and closer to the civilization in the middle, the trees start to expand and grow further, to a point where their branches become a wild mess within the sky, tangled and intertwined to make a dome around the city, made of trees and branch and leaves. And it is not a perfect covering. There, during windy days and stormy nights, some of the branches do get swayed and pushed due to the elevation, causing bits and sort of like these splinters of rays of sun, like spotlights that illuminate the bottom and the ground of Merrygar. There's a bit of a bioluminescence, as the town here is home to a lot of elven kind. So there is a lot of like fey magic roaming around in the area, while these like balls of like basically like dancing lights that are a little bit more permanent start to revolve around the city, giving it sort of a beautiful orange and white glow. It is known for a few things. It's got a local hunters guild due to its surroundings within a dense forest called the Season's Bounty. It also houses a druid sanctuary called the High Root. Those who commit themselves to the High Root have connections to the village's special trees that grow to this enormous size, as it's been said and rumored that the roots of these trees grow beyond the material plane and splinter into the elemental planes. And it's said that those druids can grab onto a root and just peer. Can't influence, but just gaze into the elemental planes. It is known for its hunter guild. It's a local hunters guild, the Season's Bounty, that is well known. It's kind of like a good spot for like in the world where you have like, oh, there's a flyer somewhere that says go kill this, dire wolf and bring a patch of its fur for proof. Well, you need to go to Merrygar and submit it to the Hunters Guild to get your reward. And that's kind of what I bring to you, and I will throw it to you, Falcon, to cap us off.
Sounds good. I feel peaceful just hearing about it. Sounds like a great place to live. So kind of like with the item, I have a something a little different. I have the Whistling Kettle today. It is, instead of a city or a town, I focused on a tea shop. But it's not just any tea shop. It is a tea shop that is fit into a pocket dimension that isn't really accessible very easily. So it's a cozy little pocket dimension that exists, beyond the material plane. And inside the pocket dimension, it appears just in a small, very warm, inviting space. Mismatched furniture from different time periods and eras, floating lanterns throughout. Very kind of a mystical vibe, but very very mismatched, very kind of put together. It's not luxury by any means. And the whole thought behind it was some place that could kind of really exist anywhere in anyone's world, any kind of world that anyone can kind of come up with. And the big thing, I love interdimensional stuff. I love pocket dimensions. I love things outside of the material plane. And one of the big things is, well, how do you get here, right? Well, with it being a tea shop, and tea shops typically being, very peaceful, very cozy, big inspiration here came kind of out of nowhere. If anyone's seen Harry Potter and the Room of Requirement, it presents itself to those in need most of it. So I kind of imagine maybe a player character experiences something traumatic, loss, tension, drama, and in the middle of the night, there's just a wooden door in their tavern room where they're staying. Just a mystical door that appears out of nowhere. And where does that lead? It leads into the tea shop. Kind of an interesting way to kind of segment from maybe a long plot line that is grown very maybe darker, more traumatic for the party, and maybe the party just needs a little bit of uplifting, a little bit of a break. Is kind of where I headed there. But the tea shop proprietor, her name is Madame Gitzo, and she is an elderly halfling woman who knows how old this individual is, but she is the main proprietor. And one of the other things in terms of accessing this interdimensional tea shop is maybe whenever you go there for the first time, maybe Madame Gitzo kind of, maybe she has a task for you or something along those lines. And as a reward, you get a magical ticket that gives you another one-way trip back to the tea shop at any other given time that you like. So I think it is pretty cool. And then the other thing kind of going along with that is it's a tea shop. You can buy teas there. And there's a variety of teas there with different magical effects that you can then take with you outside of the tea shop, and they also act as magical potions.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool. That's great. Meshing together an intriguing location with a strange and mysterious character with magical features that you can buy and take with you. I think that this is pretty good. I kind of liked all the entries. Luminous, I love the fact that we have to blend. Like every time you think about kind of like how nature interacts, whether that is like, we have a fog roaming in, and I can only imagine with blue glow, it seems like the glow is just emanating within this fog. And the fact that you took inspiration from both Washington and Oregon, sort of in between the two.
I love that because in worlds and stuff, in any world, whether that's tabletop or in books or in video games, I'm a big fan of immersion and just that ambiance glow of the fog and stuff like that. That just drives that immersion home.
By the way,
One of the things that I like,
yeah,
one of the things that I like doing with the towns is there's a level of like in the world that might be so magical, and there might be these like expansive mountain ranges that they have to explore, and these jungle landscapes that might have red and white mushrooms, and that cause this, that, and the other. I like adding a bit of mundaneness. Like the world has to work, right? Like there has to be farmers, there has to be people cutting down trees and logging somewhere in order to support the magical societies that exist. So one of the things with Luminous is it is just a town that happens to be plagued with nightmares from maybe Elixir or not. I don't know. Who knows? But I like the fact that it is just a town, but it's got this like extra bit of magic that comes with the feeling. Just the feeling. It could happen in the world here technically, but it also just gives it that little bit of extra ambiance.
it's really great because when it comes to big cities, generally big cities don't have like these stories and sort of folk tales and things like the kids say, like, careful, don't sleep after midnight or you'll have bad dreams or something along that lines. There's not so much within big cities like that kind of supernatural, like, sort of rumors that start to get spread. But in small villages, especially because this was a starting village, it fits so well that they're like, yeah, if you sleep here, for too long, or you come in, whatever aspect you would like to add into that concept, there's always a bit of like a warning, and it fits well with small towns. I went to a small town in Arizona called Douglas, which is like right next to the border, and there is a small there's not small, but there's a fairly decent hotel that has so many ghost stories around it and surrounding it, and it's believable. You feel it because it's a small town. So I think that's a great additive to have, kind of like a warning or maybe a negative consequence of being there for too long.
Yeah, no, that's great,
keeps the plot moving too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, with your town, Mike, and kind of even like with my Teashop, there is, with the roots, and kind of go, rumor has it that they go into the various planes beyond the material plane, and the druids can kind of maybe gaze into them. I'm such a big personally, I'm just such a huge fan of like interdimensional things. I always find the planes fascinating as locales and their cultures and things like that. So I'm always a huge fan of that. I always think that those could be massive plot points in any story, honestly.
It felt very fitting to do the two things. One, have it it was very surrounded by nature and has a dense forest, and it was even covered by forest. I was like, it has to have some druidic influence, and it made sense that, especially we know players, and if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So I had to write in that these druids can gaze into the elemental planes, not interact with them, because for a fact, if you introduce any kind of threat that has interdimensional problems, or is going into kind of an elemental plane thing, that all they could do is watch, and that's the point. And I also like the fact that, yes, they're surrounded by trees, but they probably don't want to cut them down. They're a bit of a protective, so there probably is a lot of game, a lot of monsters. So let's introduce a hunter's guild.
Yeah, that's fun. Especially with the dome going on top.
Yeah,
I love the dome. I love you really did a great job of painting the picture of, I could see myself walking in there and just kind of sitting there as a player in awe as you look up, and there's just, I imagine is kind of, there's a center circle that's kind of, in the middle of the town. I walk in and it's bustling, and the picture got painted really well, and I think seeing those rays of light popping down from different directions probably would paint just a really cool environment for whatever comes out of their experience there. But you are right. Players will try and find a way into the material plane or out of the material plane if you give it to them.
Yeah, if you dangle a set of keys
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, I'll do it. Perfect. Every
Sure.
team has a chaotic monkey somewhere there.
You see an elemental titan. Okay, cool. Let me go check it out. Yeah.
Plane of water. Let's go. Can you breathe underwater? No, but I want to
go. I very much love the room requirement and sort of that concept, and having that added to, like, you go to a shop and it could be anywhere, and that's sort of the fun thing, is that if you truly wanted it, it could be in the middle of a desert and be like, you find a door next to a stone. Oh, well, I'm gonna go there. I need somewhere to sit and drink some tea.
Right, exactly, and that's where my thought was. I don't know, the other thing in terms of that is, like, and I envisioned in my head, and I don't know why this was, like, the motivation for this was, like, maybe a player character lost a member of their family or something from their backstory recently, and it's the next session, and they wake up, and all of a sudden there's a door there, and, obviously the whole table's like, what is this door? It just appeared in this room, and it just sparks intrigue with the party. And it's something different that you could use, like, as an uplifting session after maybe something that's a little bit more heavy and deep, story-wise and emotional-wise, maybe in a previous session. But yeah, this could appear anywhere.
I've met all types of players, and I can definitely see the more paranoid types to go, don't go to that door. Don't do that. But
100%.
If you were to describe it like it has, like, beautiful etchings on the door front, you can smell sort of a floral scent coming from, like, the base of the door. You can hear soft laughter and maybe a bit of, like, a jovial sort of discussion happening, and maybe this woman's talking to a cat.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, exactly. That kind of vibe. And that's one thing actually I forgot to mention is, and I do have actually I did write this down, is, like, the door has the knocker on it is a tea kettle that has, like, steam coming out of it.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Oh,
so
man.
it's
I wonder, do you think that there are patrons there that are frequent, or do you think it's just the party and the shop owner? Because I could imagine this could show up anywhere. So you got, like, a fire elemental that
100%.
you kind of have some fun with, and they're not like a true stat block monster fire elemental, but
I'm just seeing myself out. Sorry.
Right.
You go next. All right, I'll leave. So way out. It's like,
I think that's what's so
with a devil.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, devils. I mean, it could be anywhere. There could be 30 doors out there that appeared last night just to, and as Madame Gitzo brings, the tired and weary in from all planes, really. So who knows who the party will experience there, and if the party really connects with the shop owner, as we all know players love to connect with random NPCs, and they gain access, again, through, like, a magical item, whether they rip a ticket or something and the door appears at will for them, or anything like that. Who knows who else they might meet? What other patrons they could meet?
What's the hotel in John Wick where it's neutral ground? If anyone's ever seen that movie. Anyway, well, there's an aspect within that movie where, like, it's all about assassins, so it's like no killing in this hotel. That would be a great add of in this game where it's like, okay, in this tea shop, no one messes with the madam or her shop. No one fights. You have beef. You leave.
I mean, it would have to be, like, a legendary place among the plains. Now, like, the party probably has never heard of it unless you've got some people that are well read. But across the plains, everybody, most people might visit it once, or so it would be an interesting. You would have a lot of flexibility to be able to put this in somewhere, and just a little bit of lore or the shopkeeper's name somewhere in somewhere, or they meet a traveler that says, oh, you might need to visit this tea shop, and then they look into it. So yeah, I love that location. It's flexible enough. It has a positive uplifting. You can have so much fun with all the planes and the different denizens of those planes. So I love it.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Lots of room for adventure hooks and everything. Really, anything that a DM could come up with, they could use this. That's one of the other reasons why I liked it. By being a pocket dimension, it kind of inherently fits into any kind of world a DM has, whether it's homebrew or from a module or a book. It doesn't really matter. It is universal. It could fit anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully all of this is usable for your own games and stories. Thank you so much for joining us at the Forge here. And next time, we'll build you some other stuff. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.